Sometimes you put Old Crow in a fancy bottle and hope the gold trim does something magical. It doesn't. That's kind of where we are politically. We keep confusing the container for the contents. Confidence for competence, salesmanship for leadership, a man in an office for a man who could actually do the job. And when the job starts breaking, the salesman does what salesmen do under pressure: more pitch, more denial, more blame. So this week, it's about the vacuum that we bought, the engine that we watched him hit with a wrench, and why the rest of us still have to decide whether we're just going to stand there and pay for the repairs ourselves. This is Shrink the Nation. Let's go.
This is Shrink the Nation, a podcast for thoughtful, informed adults, preferably holding a drink and definitely holding a thought. The views expressed here are ours alone. They do not represent our employers, institutions, licensing boards, government agencies, bourbon distilleries, or most emphatically, our families. They've been very clear about that. This show is for education and entertainment only. Nothing you hear is medical, psychiatric, legal, or professional advice. We're clinicians, not your clinicians. If something we say stirs you up, that's not a crisis, that's a journal entry, or an email sent politely. We're here to challenge ideas, not diagnose strangers on the internet. And if you are in real distress, please reach out to a professional who can actually help you.
All right. Hey, I'm David. I got 20 plus years in the military. I'm a board certified psychiatrist. And today, Robbie, I am drinking Old Crow out of a fancy bottle. Somebody gave me this crystal bottle. And what I've been learning from our show is that if you take something shitty like Old Crow, but you put it in something that's lined with gold, it's
It's
fucking
still Old
terrible.
Crow.
What I've heard about Old Crow is that the first glass not so great, but the second one is better.
Right. Well, let's face it. People that drink Old Crow is going for the eighth and ninth glass is really where their target is. And for our
Well, here's the
long
thing: is
term,
like normally I wouldn't do two glasses, but because this is Old Crow, I'm thinking, why not a third?
exactly.
Why not a 47th or a 48th? Right?
Yeah. And that's how you wake up a week later behind a dumpster with a dead raccoon next to you, wondering about all your life decisions. However, for our long term listeners, they will probably fondly recall that Old Crow is best drank in an alley behind a dumpster. That's really where the aroma really augments the flavor.
It really does. And honestly,
Yeah.
in some ways, right now, I feel like I've been behind a dumpster, enjoying this in an alley, sleeping on a cardboard box that's been
Yep.
laid out flat.
Yep.
That's how this week feels to me emotionally, is what I'm getting at. Just reading through the news today. So this is what I'm drinking. Looking
Okay.
forward to our conversation.
Well, excitingly enough, David and I have gotten in the habit of taping relatively early. So it's been a while since we've actually hoisted a glass to one another. So I'm not expecting great things, but interesting ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Rob. Everyone knows how long I've been doing what I do if they've been listening. I am drinking Buffalo Trace this evening. The fine folks at Buffalo Trace, they make a middle of the road bourbon, a little bit rye, good price point, enjoyable bourbon. Much better than Old Crow.
Fair. I think what we need to start off with is an apology, Robbie. I need to apologize to our president of the United States right now. As a psychiatrist, I should have spotted, and maybe you and I together should have spotted, that if you take a guy who is incapable of doing a job and you put him in that job, that he's not going to magically be able to do that job. But I think what, as psychiatrists, we really should have been able to understand is the amount of anxiety that probably comes with that realization at some point that you are so ridiculously incompetent to do the role, and what that must be like for somebody. So I have apologized. I mean, this whole time we've been really beating up on the guy for what he's been doing. And what we haven't been understanding is the fact that he's just an old man. I mean, this is just a regular old guy who just got put into an office. This is Old Crow. I mean, this is Old Crow put into a fancy bottle, is what we're seeing. And as it turns out, if you put Old Crow into a fancy bottle, it doesn't start tasting like quality bourbon. It still tastes like shitty Old Crow. And that's on me. I apologize. I'm not sure why we thought that because he was put in the White House that he would act any different than he always has. That's on us.
I don't know if we did think, but we as a nation thought.
What I'm getting at for us as psychiatrists is that the crushing, overwhelming sensation it must be like to wake up and find yourself so in the deep end, just over your head and not knowing how to swim. Like that's got to be terrifying, especially when your kind of go to things that you do, the things that in your own mind make you successful, like stiffing contractors and just not worrying about it, filing bankruptcy, like
Gilding things.
yeah, and those things have always kind of worked, but then you wake up one day and you realize, shit, I can't file bankruptcy. I can't just stiff the contractors this time. I got to start making decisions. But problem is every decision that you make fucking blows up in your face. And so the only thing you're left with is pretend. For a regular guy, for a regular person, which Donald Trump is, he's just an old man. Like he's just a regular old man who has access to a lot of money. And that has really clouded his judgment. But some point you start working down this pipeline of just a fake reality. I mean, and we're seeing this over time and time again now with the Truth Social posts in the middle of the night. I almost worry about him. This has got to be terrifying. It's got to be scary to wake up and be the president and realize you're just not fucking able to do it. Like you're just not fucking capable. That's got to be awful. Like the most terrifying experience. Almost as terrifying as watching it. It's got to be awful.
Almost, almost. I would say it's a close second. If, but I would give you that. My question for you though is, how frequently do you think he's actually aware of this?
I think every night that he has tweeted or Truth Social or whatever the fuck you call it, it seems like he becomes aware in those moments. And the rest of the time, like when he's around other people, he's able to be calmed by the constant reassurances that what he's saying, what he's doing is the right thing, as his decisions are just opposite of good. The country's on fire and he's like, more gasoline. And they're like, excellent job, sir. That'll take care of the problem.
Build a ballroom, build an arch.
$100 million ballroom. I mean, a $400 million ball. What the fuck is going in that thing that it's going to cost $400 million? It's like a big empty space, right?
A lot of gold.
Well, that'll make it safe. If you got like two routes, right? Like you either go down that path of believing it, which I do think during the day, as he's surrounded by people, he kind of buys into that old bullshit, right? It's getting high on your own supply, drinking your own Kool-Aid. But at night, when the demons come a knocking, when it's just you and your anxiety, and you wake up in a cold sweat, and you just have to tweet out this false reality.
Whatever bullshit thing.
Just shaken, terrified, coming up with, in all caps, attacking anybody who said anything bad about you, because of course they do.
Part of the gig.
It reminds me of, if you remember on Seinfeld, there were the Mandelbaums, this family of escalatingly elderly men who every time they try to like pick something up, they throw out their back, but then the next dad comes in. He's even older. He's like 90 years old. He's like, what happened? He threw out his back trying to lift that TV. He's like, that TV? They're like, yeah, I thought he could do it. I feel like that's the world we're living in now. That if you put on a shirt that says world's greatest dad, he starts to believe that that's true when he's not the world's greatest dad.
Yeah, let's take this premise, and I think we have reasonable data to support what you're saying, but let's take a step backwards. Why did we do this to ourselves?
Well, okay, so I've been thinking about this a lot. We all kind of wake up in the middle of the night going, oh shit,
Yeah,
this guy's got
no doubt.
access to the nuclear codes and there's nobody around him that's going to stop it. Not like the first time. And so what occurred to me is a throwback to, a few episodes ago, you had talked about somebody close to you getting a rainbow vacuum. And that's really, I think, what we're seeing from this was that he's a salesman. That's what he is. He's a fantastic salesman. He can get in the door. He could convince somebody wearing a white suit and white gloves to buy a ketchup popsicle on a hot day. What we're seeing now is that he convinced 30 some odd percent of eligible voters or those who voted that not only was he selling a vacuum, but that he was going to clean your house. And if the vacuum broke, he was going to fix it. And as it turns out, he's never used a vacuum. He has no idea how to clean a house. But more importantly, he's got no fucking clue how to fix a vacuum either.
We didn't test the machine. We fell for the pitch. You know what this reminds me of? The mental picture I keep getting is that we basically bought a Floby. We're standing in front of the mirror and we're wondering why our hair looks like shit. Where did my hair go? We fell for the pitch. And anyone who's been up late on a I don't know, Friday, Saturday night. And I don't even know if infomercials exist anymore, but they featured prominently into my teen and early 20s. Anybody who's watched an infomercial and fell for the shtick, bought it sight unseen, and then found that it did not live up to expectation.
And but what's really crazy about this is that the guy was there just there last week. We bought the previous vacuum and it didn't fucking work. It didn't work. He didn't fix it then either. But he came back a week later and said, "But now I'm going to." And we were like, "Yes." I mean, he's a phenomenal salesman. I think is what it comes down to. As a nation, we bought it. Now we're having to grapple with the stress of having this salesman living in our house, not cleaning it with a broke ass vacuum that ain't gonna work. It's costing us fucking fortune. He's raiding the fridge and just emptying it out and filling it with shit we don't want or need. He's using up all the toilet paper. He's doing all the things that you don't want somebody doing in your home, but you invited him in because he said he was going to be awesome. And we got to deal with that. And there's just no way to get him out. The squatters' rights in our state apparently are they're just golden. He's here to stay for at least a few years.
It's a process. You got to go through the whole process. It's a nightmare. So here's the question, buddy. Why do we do this? Why do people, US population, what made us think that this individual was qualified to do this job?
I mean, that's a head scratcher, to be honest. I mean, in the first administration, this maybe played a bit of a role. So, in the first administration, he did surround himself with people who could, in some ways, do the job. Now, what we weren't seeing was that they were acting as the guardrails to his shenanigans at that point. And so whenever he would want to do something crazy, they would say no, or they would distract him with some golden keys. I'm sure they have like a golden set of keys to like jingle in front of him. And then he would get distracted and move off in another direction. So it was just, he wasn't running the show. People were distracting him from the really dangerous stuff. But then he got wise to that. They didn't see that coming. Now, I mean, I think a lot of us saw that coming, but he kept insisting that it wasn't, right? Like he kept saying, no, 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 no. I'm not going to Project 2025. What's that? I've never read it, which I believe. I believe he's never read it. But he was just a great salesman.
Let me throw some psychological terms at you because this is something that I've thought about. There's a confidence heuristic that we equate certainty with competence, and it's a human thing that someone who presents themselves as certain, and that's probably because most of us have certain inadequacies and fears, uncertainties about ourselves, lack of confidence. If someone's confident, we sort of project upon them. If we were that confident, we certainly would know what we were doing, right? There's also the halo effect, and that's when success in one domain somehow bleeds over into, or the idea at least bleeds over. It's one of the annoyances that I have when somebody is running for office and says, I was a successful plumber and now I'm the Secretary of Homeland Defense. I'm a successful businessman. I'll be a successful politician or a successful leader, a governmental leader. That really doesn't translate. And I've got some great examples of that. I mean, examples hopefully everyone knows. Elizabeth Holmes, I think, is an awesome example of this. She's was the CEO of Theranos. So she was magical at selling the future of medicine. She just had no ability to actually build it. So Michael Jordan, best basketball player of all time, but a complete utter failure as an owner. He did a terrible job as an owner. So success in that domain. And then the one that I think really is going to drive this home is Mike Lindell. He made a killer pillow. Fucker made a great pillow. Was not good at uncovering a national investigation on voter fraud. Different jobs, different jobs. But we see a successful person and we make that assumption that they could be competent in other realms. And that's on us, brothers. That's how we're wired.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. Yeah.
It's not stupid. It's
No.
truly how we're wired. We didn't mistake incompetence for competence. We mistook confidence in one arena for competence in another, and we were wrong.
It is natural. I think this is something that we do. And I alluded to this in the past, but it's where we try to empathize with somebody else's perspective using our own, which is what our brain is going to do. We think, wow, this guy's got so much confidence. If I had that much confidence, I would only have it because I was truly competent to do the thing. So you're just looking at it from your lens, but you're ignoring their lens. And so, of course, it's a natural thing. Now, I do think there is some wishful thinking that kind of goes into it as well. It's not just, well, this person's really confident and I'm going to go with that. I think part of it too is you're thinking, I would really like to see those things occur. And so you are more likely to believe, like, let's use Theranos as an example. The idea that it was possible to get such amazing lab results from just a tiny drop of blood sounded awesome. And I think we all wish that it was possible just to do a finger stick and get a bunch of lab results for cheap, even. And so it wasn't just that it was too good to be true, it was that it was something that we really wanted to have happen. Now, there's another piece of that where the experts who were looking at this technology, who were aware of the amount of lab equipment, the amount of a sample size you would need to test blood, they were like, this is bullshit. They were just raising their hand saying, wow, yeah, there's no way this works. I would love to see it. And they, of course, wouldn't let you. But it's nuance. People don't want that. They want that easy answer. What we've seen with him is that he'll give you the easy thing and then leave out the details to get to that. It was, I have the concepts of a plan to fix Medicare, to fix the healthcare system. Okay, what's the plan? I have concepts of a plan. Sounds great. He's going to do it. When those two things, that confidence and that desire for something, just run into each other, man, we got problems as a country.
And speaking of like the system at large, something else that occurs to me is that when a leader like this comes into a system, so think about most systems, institutions, whether they be businesses or other bureaucratic organizations, the government of the United States, it becomes sort of a system of distributed cognition. The system is doing the thinking. Our experts are our error correctors, so they're the mechanism by which we correct error, and then dissent is reality testing. And with leaders like this disables the system's ability to tell truth because it becomes this positive feedback loop. They can't tolerate dissension, which means reality drifts. They demean experts. So we never have that error correction. And it really pulls the system as a distributive cognition into a zone that one might even reference as psychotic. We're not living reality. We really are not. And I'm struck by this constantly. I'm not going to bore people with Iran, even though I'm constantly thinking about it. What I am absolutely stunned by at this point is we're working on 10 weeks, or we'll soon be working into the 10th week. There is a catastrophe coming. It's on the horizon. There is a supply catastrophe. There is no mechanism by which this supply, even if this thing ends tomorrow, there is no mechanism that this supply problem can fix itself in 6, 8, 10, 12 months. Best estimate, 6 months if it ends tomorrow. I don't know about you, buddy, but I paid $5.05 for gas per gallon today. That's up $1 from last week at this time. So it's starting to move. What nobody is screaming about this. It is almost psychotic. The reality that we are actually facing, we are pretending it's not reality until it hits us in the damn face.
Well, and I paid 551 today. So yes, it's actually that's might be a little bit cheaper than it was a few weeks ago. So hey,
For
I'm
some reason,
super
it hit the
excited.
Midwest all of a sudden. Michigan, Indiana, Ohio had the three highest jumps in the nation, but it's coming. We're pretending like it's not. The markets are pretending like it's not. It's going to hit, and when it hits, it's going to hit hard.
Well, and I've been grappling with this kind of in my own mind because the thing that just came out was this push well, we're not actually in a war. We're not actually because there's a ceasefire. That just came out. And so now Congress, it doesn't look like they're planning to implement the War Powers Act, which is actually an important thing to understand is that if they don't implement it, if they don't hold the feet to the fire, it's just not going to happen.
Hey, point of order. Mr. Prime Minister, point of order. If you have a ceasefire, by definition, you are in the midst of a war. It's not a ceasefire, it's just peace. Peace is what you have.
Yeah. You have a blockade of somebody's ports. That is an act of war, people would argue. So no, I mean, and I think we could sit here and argue. This is what I was thinking about was why did I think that maybe Congress would push the envelope on the War Powers Act? Like, I'll tell you what I was thinking. I was thinking that Hegseth and Trump would come in and just ask for more time. That's what I thought would happen, and that they would just give it to him. Like I figured they would say, "Hey, we want more time for this war," and that Congress would say, "Yeah, cool, go for it." Now, why did I do that? That's what's got my brain really spinning at this point because what I'm realizing is that in my lifetime, that position has always had competence in it. I'm looking at it as if the person who's in there is like all the other presidents who have come before him. And I'm doing that. And so if I'm doing that, gosh, what is everybody else doing? Probably the same thing or something similar to where they think, well, he's the president. It must mean that he has some competence. And I have to keep reminding myself, no, he's just an old man who has taken advantage of every situation he's been in, called everyone a liar when things don't work out, and talked about how everything is against him when it doesn't work, even before it doesn't work, right? He sets himself up for success 100% of the time by calling unfairness before the final score. And then if he happens to win, saying, yep, everything is great. But if he loses, just saying, well, it was rigged. So, of course, he's coming up with some bullshit about why this isn't really a war, even though it's a war.
Well, I mean, we sort of opened up by saying he's a salesman at heart. He's a salesman. That's what he's been successful at. He's never really had a product that was worthwhile. He's really great. I mean, he really hasn't. I don't know.
I see that Trump University diploma on the back of your wall there, Robbie.
Right, right. Trump steaks. I think he had Trump oysters at one time, which I can only imagine the risk one takes when you eat
How
Trump
much
oysters.
Trump coin do you own right now?
How much hepatitis A is really what for those Trump oysters?
Right out of the Cuyahoga River.
So regression under stress. As a
Yes.
psychiatrist, we know this that people don't get more sophisticated under pressure. They get more themselves. So what we have to really think of is that he's not going to create new skills. He's going to go back to his default skill set. So what happens with a salesman when they're under pressure? They move from persuasion to pressure. They move from this optimistic presentation to denial, and messaging becomes distortion. Any of us who's ever went in to buy a car knows this. That at first they want to paint a picture of you with your skis in the back, driving into the mountains, and as it becomes less and less effective, the pressure starts. That's the "oh, give me your keys so I can go value your car," and then they won't give you
Yeah.
damn keys back. They make it like your fault that you've eaten up their time, and they start to distort things on you. This is what salesmen do, and what we're seeing from him is absolutely persuasion becomes pressure, confidence becomes certainty without evidence, optimism becomes denial, messaging becomes distortion, and if your only tool is persuasion, every failure looks like an audience problem. It's not his problem. It's our problem. If the markets keep buying his bullshit, everything's fine in his mind, even if it's
Yeah.
not.
Right. I guess that's why I'm chastising myself for even thinking that there would be some normalcy that he would bring to this party. This is on me. Like, it's really on me to think it was
I
capable
agree.
of that change. I mean, as a psychiatrist, like, I have seen people change, but they've had to want to. And it's taken a lot of time. Like, they've had to put a lot of effort in, but people don't just spontaneously change. And I guess what I want our tens of listeners and honestly anybody else to think about is if you know somebody who is 80 years old, think about, would you give them your car keys? Would you hand that person your car keys and be like, yeah, yeah, Gramps, go down to the store and buy bread? Do you expect your car to come back with a loaf of bread? It probably not. You're probably thinking,
No,
no, no, no, I'll do that. I'll do that. I got it. I got you,
exactly.
Gramps. Sit in your chair, watch TV, and talk about racist shit.
Say off color things and grumble about your health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But so Right now, I mean, the amazing thing is that we're essentially watching someone try to repair a broken engine by just giving it a better sales pitch. The machine's broken, and Trump's still workshopping slogans. And between the two, they do not make.
No, he's not. It's worse than that. He's not just workshopping slogans. At the same time, he's just grabbing random ass tools and throwing them at the engine in hopes. And he's confident. He's like, yeah, it's what one big swing of this guy, and it'll purr like a kitten. And it's not. There's like a wrench just fucking hitting like we're just watching in horror. Some of us, but
Be
the
like,
problem is there's a bunch of people that are back there going like, I thought he could do it and they're excited. It's like, I know he's fixing it. Yeah, yeah. I would throw a wrench right in the middle of that thing too. Like, you don't need that.
this happens to me as a guy all the time where I'm thrown in with a bunch of other guys, whether I know them or not. We got to make small talk, and not everyone's expertise is the same. So, like, it always turns to cars, guns, and sports. Almost invariably, at least where I live, cars, guns, sports. And there's always that guy. And I'll admit, like when they start talking cars, I'll be like, yeah, I mean, I can speak to like what cars I'd like to have, but I'm not going to speak with any expertise. But there's always that guy that tries to play along, and he's like, "Is that a four-cylinder in there?" Because the only three things he knows,
You got a V4 right there, right? It's good looking V4.
four, six, and eight. That's what he knows. That there's a there's a V6, there's a V8, and then a four. And you're right, a V4. And says it with a great deal of confidence. It's not really adding to the conversation, and certainly does not revealing any expertise. And here we sit. And every time I see a news conference, I think about that because he's throwing terminology that he's heard experts say, but he doesn't have mastery of the subject matter. And he's 80. Then he says some off-collared shit and complains about his health.
Well, I guess that's the other thing is you got your 80-year-old grandpa or whatever, and he starts talking and you kind of just zone him out. You're just like, I don't know, whatever he's saying. And somebody's like, did he just fucking say what I heard? You're like, I don't know. I don't listen. He just sits there. He yells at the lawn.
It's grandpa. Yeah, he's got Lewy body dementia.
What concerns me, we'll talk about psychiatry a little bit, is that because this is what we have running the show, the behavior of our country to our allies, to the rest of the world is starting to kind of go down this borderline perspective where we just don't trust anyone. They're trying to take advantage of us. We're pushing them away. This is not the perfect analogy, I will admit, because that borderline personality is usually predicated off that fear of abandonment. What I'm seeing is that our country is pushing people away and we have a flawed belief. These acquaintances of ours, our allies, we feel like they're acquaintances, so they really can't go anywhere if we keep pushing them away and acting erratically and accusing them of shit. You came home late. Damn it, Britain. I know you're fucking Italy behind my back.
Yeah.
We're losing our shit on them and we're accusing them of stuff, but we're missing the point that they're not family. They have no obligation to us beyond just being like, yeah, we're cool. We'll go along with you. Like you're a nice person to hang out with when you're being normal. Like we really like you when you're stable.
When you're not drinking.
Yeah, when you're hitting sauce, you become a fucking nightmare.
I hate it when you drink the whiskey. You get mean.
You get loaded up with all that methamphetamine that China keeps sending, and you just go off the handle. Our allies, they're starting to react as if we're not capable of coherence and these close relationships anymore.
Well, it bothers me too. I'll talk in attachment theory. We had some really secure attachments. I guess fooled ourselves and we thought those attachments equated to loyalty. And it turns out that it's always been contingent upon us not being chaotic. And we've kind of forced them into more of an avoidant attachment stance with us, just purely through our own chaos. We actually have talked about this. We've talked about the ramifications to our alliances, our allies around the nation, and how this is going to be a tough thing to fix because once you establish yourself as chaotic, here I am back to Iran. And so Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz was a theoretical. They theoretically thought they could do it, but they never really proved it. And now we've given that opportunity to prove it. The idea that we could turn, that we could be a destabilizing force might have been an idea, but now we've taken it from the theoretical that no one ever experienced in 80 years of our history to like the legitimate. Like, oh God, this is not a country you can trust because they have this unified executive theory,
Unified
whatever.
executive theory. Yeah. Unified executive
Yeah.
theory.
So every 4 years, then they've proven they'll put an incompetent man in the seat. So we can't trust them. We can't build decades long relationships because every 4 years we might deal with this. Once you've smacked your significant other, how do you apologize? I mean, how do you come back from that? You don't. It takes years to
Yeah.
prove yourself again.
Well, and they gotta really wanna stay in the game, and you gotta be willing to change. Now, I don't know that it's impossible for somebody, even a country, to go back and change, but I think you have to at that point. I think in order for our allies to look at us and say, "Okay, they're not hitting the sauce anymore. Variety went away for
Right.
4 years, but, now they're back in AA. They've gone through the 12 steps.
Their skin's cleared up, the beer belly's gone.
They're just trying to love themselves at this point. They're not trying to fuck us anymore. They're doing better. But in order for us to really, I think, prove that to our allies, I think we would have to have some significant change to our laws to make sure that we don't fall off that wagon again. It would be very important to do that. One thing, though, that I have to bring up because I think we're really pouring it on Donald Trump here. And I don't know that that's fair. I don't know that it's fair to say that this is all him.
No.
Because really, like with the whole War Powers Act, it's not the president's job to hold himself back. If he gets drunk and wants to fight the biggest guy in the bar, I mean, should he not do that? No, probably not. It's a dumb thing to do. But it's his buddies that are supposed to be like, no, man, like, you're not going to take him. Like, he's gonna kick your ass. You got to stop. You're not going to win this fight, and that's where Congress I want to blame at this point, and I'm going to blame them all. It's not just the House. It's not just the Senate. It's not just Republicans. It's not just Democrats. It is everybody, and I mean that because when your buddy is drunk and he wants to get into an altercation, you got to be willing to get between them and pull him away at all costs. Even if you don't have all the power, at the very least, you got to be like, "Come on, guys! Like we can't let this happen." And they're just failing across the board.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah,
just not being good buddies. They're being terrible buddies. And they've been terrible buddies this whole time because they've been telling him, no, dude, you're like the biggest, baddest motherfucker here. Have another drink. Keep going.
yeah.
Like, we got this, man. Drink, 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 drink. Like, they're
Right.
buying him Jaeger bombs and they're,
That girl over there in the corner is looking at you.
yeah, that sexy Russian girl is all about you, man. Like, you got to get some of that. They're just
Right.
egging him on.
Well, authority in a democracy is granted, and that authority is maintained through a collective agreement. Power in a republic is a group project. I fear we've forgotten that we're part of the group, and I'm including Congress, and I'm including us as
Yeah.
citizens. And the power is still there. It does require quite a lot to corral that power among the citizenry to make it actually a tangible thing.
What this reminds me of, like what you're talking about, is ultimately the people are the ones who give the
Or to
power to
blame.
the representatives. They elect representatives to the Congress and they elect the president, but they elect the representatives too, and that's their job. And what right now, what I'm not hearing enough of is that Congress has abdicated their role as an equal member of this government. I'm not hearing enough of that and get that this president's not playing by the normal rules. Well, there's something beneficial about when one person's not playing by the rules, not everyone else has to either. And what this reminds me of is when my daughter was 3 years old, she was at a daycare, and every day they'd have like nap time. They would just make these little 3-year-olds lay down and just be quiet. And then eventually they would like fall asleep, and that was great. But one day she wasn't tired, right? Like she wasn't ready for a nap. And she goes, I don't want to take a nap. And they're like, you must take a nap. And she looks around and she goes, wait a minute, there's only one of them and there's like 30 of us. And she attempted to stage a coup at the daycare center, tried to get all the kids up to just stay awake and not do nap time. At this point, it's like, well, you know what? If you're not happy with your congressman, and you can look it up, it's not difficult to look up whether or not they have voted on keeping this war going and fucking with your wallet and the fuel prices. Because I'll tell you, it's really simple. They haven't voted on it. I'll tell you, for guarantee you, they have not voted on this. I take it back. There have been votes, but they've all been shot down. So go look up your congressperson. Go do it right now. Go look up your congressperson and find out, did this person vote to extend this conflict so that we can keep paying, $80 for a tank of gas? And if they have, if they voted for it, call them up, write a letter and let them know that they're not going to be your representative anymore. If enough people, there's only one of them. And I think we've gotten so used to this idea that, well, there's only one of them, they're not going to listen to me. Well, they do listen to votes. They do listen to primaries. They're terrified of the primary. Right now, they're more afraid of Donald Trump than the 330 million Americans who elected them. They're more afraid that Donald Trump is going to say something nasty about them, which he fucking is anyway. Like, even when he brings them up on the stage, he still talks shit about them to their face and then says, vote for this person. They're more afraid of him than they are of their constituents just not voting for them again. I don't want to be the kind of person who guarantees anything, but I can tell you that if you live in a district with 1 million voters and 500,000 of them call and write your office every single day and say, I'm not voting for your sorry ass again if you don't stand the fuck up, you will listen to that if you want to maintain that position. And if you don't, great, vote against these clowns because they're just not doing their job. That's where I'm at. I've stunned you.
No.
Insist that the government perform their function. That's what we're seeing now is that they're not doing their job. Their job right now is to say, no, the War Powers Act says that after 60 days, you need to ask us for an extension so that you can draw this down. You need to stop this war or we need to declare war. And they're not doing that. They're just not doing their job. Neither house. Fucking spineless.
And by the way, David is not calling for a coup for the United States. His daughter attempted to coup a daycare. We are not. The official party line for Shrink the Nation is not a coup.
No,
It
it's
is
not
not
a
a
coup.
coup.
It's for people to use the one thing that they have. We have social media. We have the internet. We have phones. We have the ability to reach out to our representatives en masse and say, do your fucking job. Do your job. That's really simple. It's not a coup. It's a warning that we're not going to keep electing fucking clowns and expecting that we're going to get anything but a circus because that's where we're at. We're electing plumbers. This guy made some racist fucking crazy statement one time and he got in trouble for it and people were upset and so he ran for Congress because he's going to fucking stick it to whoever. That's who we're electing right now. Stop fucking doing that. And you call his office up and tell him to fix the swamp that you live in. Fucking fix it.
Although, in his defense, he has some of the most visceral first person accounts of combat of anyone that I've ever read. Particularly striking being that he is a man who has never been
Yeah.
in combat. The smell, David. The smell.
I think I was talking about Joe the plumber, but the smell of combat, you could smell the flesh. You could
You
smell
never
the
forget it.
flesh. It
You
reminds
never
me of
forget
the
it.
Outback Steakhouse that I went to last night.
We make fun of Mark Wayne because he deserves it.
His name is Mark Wayne.
His dad built a hell of a company. Apparently, he did some good work there too. But
I'm not
whatever.
going to dispute that his ability to
Yeah.
run a plumbing company is great. The guy knows his shit.
It
Literally.
doesn't translate in Homeland Defense. It just doesn't.
Well, I don't think it translates to the Senate. Anyway, and it's not about, I mean, the truth is we could rip
It's-
into Democrats. It's everybody at this
we
point.
could.
And there are more people who have the ability to vote against these people right now. And I'll tell you, this is from a psychological perspective. We believe that because we voted for them, that they're going to have our best interests at heart. And the truth is, no, they fucking don't. They told you what you needed to hear to vote them in. And what they're doing is they're listening to lobbyists and they're concerned about their own survival because they're terrified of Donald Trump. And what I'm saying is don't let them be afraid of Donald Trump's tweets because he's not on Twitter. Don't be afraid of those. be afraid. He is, I think, but he's not really active.
He does quacks now. I
He
don't know
does,
what
yeah,
you
whatever
call
he
him,
does.
what he does.
But what they should be afraid of is that millions and millions of Americans are sick and tired of paying $80 for a tank of gas because our president doesn't know how to get out of a conflict that he didn't know how to get into.
Apparently, he doesn't know geography. So you're hitting on something that it's been coalescing in my brain, and I've always thought of corruption as a third world country problem, a Russian problem, imagine Chinese problem. North Korean problem. We live at a time of probably the highest political corruption in at least the last, probably since the 20s, maybe.
Yeah, what happened in the fucking 20s that
Well,
turned things
I
around,
know what
right?
happened. Right. Complete
Those
collapse.
were good times. Wanting to go back to pre-industrial revolution as the greatest time that this country ever, it's just an insane prospect. And if anything, I gotta blame the American education system for not teaching people that, guess what? It fucking sucked in the 1920s. Fucking sucked. I think Trump wants us to go back to 1890 when his grandfather or great grandfather, somebody was fucking over, the people that were going to San Francisco or whatever when he made his fortune. I think he just wants to go back to those days so he can like stick it to his old band.
The Irish getting hosed. But so anyway, we exist at a time of incredible political corruption. And it's been driven by things like, gosh, the unlimited amounts of money that, basically the sway that our ultra wealthy have on our politics now has pulled the power away from the people and put it in the hands of the ultra wealthy because they're the ones that can fund the ads, which end up drawing in the people.
Well, it's not just the money, right? Like it's owning the algorithm. It's controlling the algorithm. Like when you go and you look at the inauguration, who was sitting in the front fucking row? It was Bezos. It was Zuckerberg. It was Musk. Is there another one? There's probably some other rich fuck that was there too.
Don't you look at Elon Musk and think that he probably smells rather musky? I do. I find it ironic,
No,
actually.
I think he probably smells of Tahitian vanilla. That's how I imagine it.
He just looks sloppy to me, but whatever. I'm sure he has an algorithm that's going to pick up that somebody said he looks sloppy, and I'm probably going to get banned from. Luckily, I'm not on any of those things. However, yeah, the power, both financially and technologically, now sits in a group of people's hands who have way more control over our politics than we as a people have, and what we
But
have
that's
because you just
psychological. It's not just money though, Robbie. I mean, if you control the algorithm, like if you're on Twitter, I know you're not on Twitter, but if somebody's on Twitter, whether they follow Elon Musk or not, he is going to hit your feed with the most heinous, not real shit you've ever seen. What the studies have shown is that if you're on it and you're exposed to it and you're seeing it, you're going to move in that direction, whether you want to or not. And I think that's what concerns me is that it goes into a person's own belief system based off of principle that the more you hear things, the more real it gets. It's that illusory truth principle that we talk about all the time is that if you hear it enough, you're gonna believe it. And that's what they're doing is drilling it into your brain.
you make a valid point, but if you would drink Old Crow and let me make my point, I'm going a different direction here, brother.
Make your point. Make your point. I was just cleaning up. It's not just money. It's not just money. It's the echo chambers. It's controlling the echo chamber. It's controlling the message. It's making sure that when you see Donald Trump talk and you are somebody who might vote for him or could be swayed to vote for him, that you are gonna hear coherent things that go along with what you believe.
From an incoherent man.
Talking about
Yep,
absolute fucking nonsense most of
whatever.
the time. And
No,
you wouldn't have
my
you would not have invited him into your house to sell you a vacuum cleaner when you realize the guy doesn't know what a fucking vacuum is.
well,
So, yes,
no,
please
I'm sure he's
make
never
your point.
never vacuumed a floor. No, my point is let's just encompass all that into corruption. That whether it's technological corruption, financial corruption, it's corruption. And it gives them way more power. And you just earlier were making the point that we do have power. There's 330 million of us. There's like 15 of them. Ultimately, the ultra wealthy, there's like, I don't know, 20 maybe. But where we get stuck is that it's learned helplessness at scale. So we feel like we don't have any power. We can't compete. You're absolutely right. What we have to figure out as a nation, and ideally, I would love to see us implement some laws that limit things such as campaign contributions, limit access to politicians, et cetera, term limits. I would love to see some stuff like that that would help mitigate some of these
Just
some of these corruption things.
expanding
Hold on, let me finish.
just expanding the number of people in the House of Representatives like we used to do so that they were only representing 100,000 people at a time would make massive changes. It would be so much harder to gerrymander. Now, AI might make that possible, but yes, I think being able to do that. Don't get me
If
drunk
I
on
say
Old Crow and then expect me to shut my fucking mouth, Robbie.
if I say 3 words, will you start talking again? No, what we have to somehow crack the nut of in order to get there is figuring out how we mobilize the power that we do have, because a lot of what is going on right now is energy and effort to keep us separate, to keep us warring among ourselves, even though those of us who are well below 90th percentile on down, those of us who live in that zone are the vast majority of people. We just need to overcome this learned helplessness at scale, mobilize the power that we have, and do something about this. And it's possible. It's been done before. It took a depression.
No, I mean, I'll argue that it has been done more recently than that. What you had Donald J. Trump, one of the most prolific failures in American history, elected into office based off of people wanting change. It was absolutely a grassroots movement that allowed that to happen. It was mobilizing the power of the vote against the Republican establishment had no interest in this. They did not want him to be there. It wasn't until he was there and they realized how much power he controlled by convincing millions of people that he was something that he's not, that they decided to get on board and they started to acquiesce to all the horrible things he would do. And they would do that. They would go, well, I don't like the way he goes about it, but I like that he's moving us in a direction that benefits me. But it wasn't benefiting the people. It's never benefited people. And now he's expanded corruption to this point that can it turn around? Yes, it can. But it's not going to come from the Peter Thiels. It's not going to come from Elon Musk. It's not going to come from Zuckerberg or from Bezos. It's got to come from the millions of people who are willing to vote against that corruption. We're in an odd time. I'm not talking violence. This isn't a violent thing. This is mobilizing your vote, using your voice because you do matter. And what matters more is that more people are getting fed up with being led down the road of chaos. What is it going to take for people like us getting attacked by an enemy? I mean, we're weaker now with Hegseth at the helm, with us blowing billions of dollars in our munitions on Iran. That's not even a conflict, right? It's not even a real war, whatever. We are less safe today against our greatest adversaries than we have been in a long, long time.
There's no doubt. We build weapons in order to defend ourselves and to project power. And we are currently at a state with fewer weapons. So, yes, we are less powerful for having done this.
But we just proved we couldn't even take down Iran. I mean, I guess we just showed the world that
We could.
we have tiny hands and small PBs. Like we've been walking around with our hands in our pockets and a potato, pretending like we were a lot tougher than we are, and
God,
then we just got
David,
knocked
I
the
would have
fuck
went
out.
with something like I would have went with like kielbasa sausage or something along those lines. A potato. I mean, what kind of weird?
it goes back to a joke that one of my super racist grandpas,
Oh, yeah.
God rest his soul, used to tell about a potato. You got to put it in the front pocket, not the back pocket. It was just a anyway.
I get it. I get it.
He would tell it super racist with like an accent and everything. It was horrible. It was horrible. But
That's just
yeah,
terrible. I'm cringing just imagining. God, the idea of the potato has me speechless. I think it's time to put a bullet in this episode's head.
everyone take a book out of the 3-year-old girl's diary and use your voice. Rise up. Realize there's way the fuck more of us than there are of them. Start sending emails. You want to make this even more just chef's kiss? Use AI to draft the letter. You really fuck with these people. Go to AI and draft a letter. Ask it where to send it. I promise you, you will come up with some really great stuff. It will make it really super easy. Just be like, I'm really fucking pissed off that I have to pay this much in gas, and it will tone it down so that you're not threatening or anything. And you can send that off. You can send 50 of them off. Be like, fix your shit, man. Fix your house. Be a buddy. Get this guy out of his own mess. Change his diaper. Do whatever you got to do. Control the old man because he's just an old man. And if you wouldn't give your car keys to your 80-year-old grandpa, why would you give control to this guy just because he thinks he's divine?
You just reminded me of a quote. I'll drink.
I'm drinking.
So this is a Carl Jung
This is
quote.
awful, by the way. This is
Bad.
the third glass. What I will tell you, people,
It's no better than the first.
the third glass is no better than the first. It's still
Yep.
Old Crow, as it turns out. Let that metaphor sit with you.
It doesn't taste better, but it does somehow give you more motivation to keep going. That's the weird thing about
Maybe
Old
there's
Crow.
meth in it or something. Yeah, you're like, I'm
Well,
ready.
that apparently is their business model. It's like this is never going to taste good, but if we can crack this nut that makes people want to just keep drinking, we'll take it.
Maybe there's caffeine in it or something. I don't know.
Or something. So Carl Jung said, "People don't have ideas; ideas have people." And that's what it strikes me is that what we're really looking for is an idea that captures people, that mobilizes people. I think they're coming though, and the irony here is that the man that I feel like most threatened our democracy might end up being the man that actually saves it, just not how he thought. So chew on that, folks. Prescriptions. I got one. The public must relearn the difference between competence and competence. Competence feels like safety. Competence quietly creates it. If you reward the first and ignore the second, you don't get leadership, you get theater. And we are in the midst of a lot of theater.
Yeah, we are. Absolutely. My prescription is probably not going to be as eloquent as yours, but really what it comes down to is
Drink more Old Crow.
if right now you're starting to feel the squeeze of the economy, you're starting to feel this conflict that is a war is not a war or whatever the fuck. I mean, the guy talked endlessly about how he couldn't call it a war, said war like 9 times, and then said, but we're calling it a military operation.
Because my people tell me I'd get in trouble if I say it otherwise.
As you're getting tired of this, I want you to think of the next time you go fill up your gas tank and you do not write your congressmen and your senators letters to tell them to put on their big boy pants and do their fucking jobs. What you're paying is not for a war. What you're paying is a tax on your laziness. So just imagine every time it costs $80 and you're not doing something, it's a tax on laziness. That's my prescription is every time you pay for the mistakes of this administration and you don't do anything about it, it's a tax on laziness. Let your voice be heard more than any of these guys who are not fucking special. So do your part, everybody. Write your Congress people. All right, Robbie, what do you think?
Killed it.
That it?
Killed it.
All right. It's an
Yeah.
episode. It's good to have the bourbon back.
It definitely animates you, my friend. It animates you.
More than actual caffeine. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Ride this dragon a little bit longer and see how it goes.
Hey, here's a challenge to our audience. If we get more downloads on this episode, you're going to flip us over into morning drinkers. We're going to be doing some day drinking for you people.
I will do some fucking day drinking if we can get more people to listen to our episode. And even if it's just you getting your sweet old elderly grandmother to just click and play it as she's passed out in a chair, that's fine with me. Like, let's get some downloads and we'd be drinking, my friend.
Yeah.
We'd be drinking.
Yep. Even if she's in a vegetative state, just
Just
put the
play it on
earbuds in,
repeat.
let it go.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Well, subscribe, share, hit like, do all the things that I think most people aren't probably doing at this point. But for those of you who are, loyal listeners, man, we love you so much, and we'll
We
take drink
do.
for you
We
too.
do.
All
We
right.
will.
So that's it. Let's cue up that music, Robbie, and we'll be on our way. We're out.
Out.